Hello, hello.
Hi, Ervin.
Hello,
Can
Jane.
can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Let me bring you up. So lovely to see you again.
Okay, great to see you. Where are you actually?
I'm in Glastonbury in England.
Oh, you're in Glastonbury. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a local to the area, so I've ended up here.
We are just 1 hour apart.
Yes. Yeah. So your assistant reached out to me and said you have a new book and would I like to talk to you about it? And I thought, well, I would love to have a part two to our conversation and hear about the new book.
Okay. You can also get the book, obviously. I look at it. I can send it or you can get it on through Amazon.
Yeah, I definitely, I haven't had, because she only just contacted me and we're doing this straight away. I've seen the blurb about the book and I've seen the cover, but I haven't actually read the book. But
Okay.
I know it's called How We Can Build a Better World. So that's a very bold and timely idea. How can we do it? How can we build a better world?
Subtitle is a tongue-in-cheek instruction. It's called the World Shift Manual.
I like that.
As though you would have a manual for shifting the world.
So, and is there a
trying to be helpful for promoting the change in a positive direction.
Okay. And is there? I remember years ago thinking about this myself. I thought of the Archimedes. Give me a pivot, I can move the world.
Yes.
I always felt that what we were looking for was that idea that was the pivot that would move everything. And the closest I got was that it was oneness, that it was actually the wholeness of things. And what's your message in the book that you think is the thing that
I
can
think
do
that stands very well. I mean, it's the idea is even the tagline on it is together we can. I mean, it's if we not try to operate on the basis of a narrow skin enclosed self-interest, but try to move beyond us, find that we are actually a larger entity. I'm just working on this now. I'm for another book. This whole concept of being extending, expanding our identity. So what I'm trying to be down to earth in this little booklet and say that really we have a unique chance because the old system, the established system, is really somewhat opened up. I mean, it's loosened up, and people are asking which way to go, and which they didn't do very much before, except for a very small minority. So there is now a chance. With a crisis brings a chance of change. It's an opportunity for change.
And how do you, I just want to reconnect it with our past conversation because one of the things I probably shared with you then was how much I relate to that idea, that the language I'd created to try and express it was the idea we're moving from individuals to UNIVIDUALS, who are individuals conscious of unity. So the big question to which I don't have a easy answer is, how do we do that collectively? How do we gather that goodness, which I see everywhere around me in people, and focus to make the change? And what is the change exactly? And is that what you're looking at in the book?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I'm saying that the first step is to at least two steps, more steps. But the one step is to question our beliefs and values and practices, and find out really how could it lead to such a dangerous, almost dead-end position. When we extrapolate current trends into the future, a matter of a few years or a decade at the most, and they lead to increasing crisis, other crises. So we now have a global crisis, which we can perhaps manage. Now, vaccines and lockdowns and everything else, and hopefully we get over it. But this crisis is at the same time an opportunity to prevent other crises to emerge. So in that sense, it's a blessing in disguise. It's a very heavy disguise, of course.
Yes.
But it gives us a chance not to continue the same way as we have been. I'm saying, question your beliefs, question your values, question your practices, and then look back for a moment and see at the crisis-prone world that we had, and come to the conclusion, yes, we have to come home, but not back. In which we have to come home to a deeper sense. You know, I wrote a book last spring, was published, called Reconnecting to the Source. So I still think I'm not talking about too much about this new book, but it's behind it all. The source is nature. The source is a broader concept of life, of which we are a part. The diagnosis, if you like, is that we have separated ourselves away out of the natural rhythms, the evolutionary process, which is there, and which other species are either in it, or if they're not in it, then they become extinct. We are not in it, and we constantly keep reinforcing ourselves in our mistaken past. I mean, talking the last 200, 250 years, increasingly operating as though we were beyond nature, beyond the evolutionary process. We can do with it what we want, and we only look at our own interests. So this business of, as our hopefully soon to be said late president and our former president in the US, he kept saying that America first. Doesn't matter what we say first, as long as it's not the whole system. The whole system is humanity, even beyond humanity, because humanity is not to be separated off from nature. The whole system is the biosphere. So if we can operate and act in a way that we are safeguarding the interests, the viability, the flourishing of life on the planet, then we can live as part of that system. That if we are only trying to do our own short-term immediate interests, then we are really sub-optimizing the system. The rest of the system is withering away. It's decaying, and the conditions that it creates for human life are becoming ever more difficult.
Mm.
So, you know, so I'm saying, get back. I'd rather not back to what we were, but get home in the sense of who we really are. I'm trying to say that we are really a part of an evolution in the universe, expressed through the evolution of life on this planet. And if we can connect with that through meditation, through nature practices, through looking at the quantum physics, if you want to do that way, but it's always comes up to the same thing, that we have an intrinsic connection, not just a usually extrinsic connection of my interest, serving my interest by being connected to you, but an intrinsic connection, an inherent connection where you and I and the world, the living world around us, it really form a single seamless system in the sense of quantum science, a time and space transcending system. And this recognition, which was there in the ancient times, in the traditions, whether it's to call it the Tao or the Confucian disciplines, or the great spirit of the indigenous people, or the message of Jesus Christ about love, it's always there. It's always there. We are connected, and we are not ending where our skin ends. We are connected, and the connection is really part of us. It's a message that traditional people, spiritual people have known and accept, but the mainstream of society has dismissed it as superstition, as just esoteric. Now this wake-up call really shows we've got to get back to these deeper realities. That in us is the answer. The answer is not by having authorities tell us what to do. The answer is aspiring to the oneness, and then we'll find out, we'll know what we have to do. We act in such a way that we become coherent. The great keyword, again, the traditional keyword is harmony, unison, coming together. The scientific keyword equivalent to that is coherence. When a system is coherent within itself, then all its elements work together, work in syntony. If it's coherent with the world around us, then it's well fitted into the world. Then it is in harmony, in tune with the rhythms, with the directions, and with the dynamics of evolution and of existence in the world. It's a different concept. It's a new paradigm concept, a paradigm not of the Newtonian, basically dead universe in which passive space and time is just an arena for the movement of passive, inert bits of pieces of reality, which we call matter. The new reality, the newly recognized reality, is a dynamic, living universe in which everything participates in its overall dynamic evolution, because everything is not material, but everything is energy and information. And that information which guides the whole system is the information that also guides us. If we can enter deeper into our own self, we'll find that information, which is there from the Big Bang onwards in the evolutionary process. So I trust that we can find that information, that we can go back. And this recap call is loosened the hold of traditional ideas and not all tradition, new traditional mainstream values and ideas, so that we can send a message saying that we are more than skin and clothes, flesh and bone, bits and pieces of matter. We are far more than that. And as more in us, we will find the solution. The solutions are not difficult in themselves. How to act sustainably, how to create a sustainable economy, a politics that serves sort of the coherence of all of society and of every society. In principle, we know it. We don't act like it because we are not aspiring to it. We are not acknowledging the motivation. We are not really going into ourselves to find the motivation. So that's basically the message I wanted to share.
That was absolutely beautifully put, Ervin. I mean, I resonate so deeply with not only the vision for taking the world forward, but also for your metaphysical understanding is, I just think it's exquisite. And I completely get what you're saying there. And the simple thing that I come back to with the UNIVIDUAL idea is when you start to get that you are the universe, what else could you be?
Yes, yes.
You know, as if you could exist separately from it. So you are the universe in relationship with itself. Each one of us is, and that the transformation that comes when you get that, for the whole thing is exploring itself and it's doing it through us.
But it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful to know that there are people like you. That's the hope for the future. If the people would like emerge and crop up and spread the message, then I think this message could spread far and wide and rapidly, and then that could be the salvation, But this kind of paradigm change, mentality change.
I think you're absolutely right. I think, and I know you've been pioneering this for a long, long time, and I really do think it is about seeing that shift that you're talking about. One of the things which occurs to me, what's your take on this, is that sometimes I feel like I hear a lot of we've messed up and that we're morally bad. And it kind of reminds me of the guys who used to walk around when I was a boy with the end is nigh on this things and this thing that God is going to punish us. And now it's nature's going to punish us. And we've been greedy and we've lost our way. And it kind of reminds me of the old religion that goes back apocalyptic. And sometimes what I want to come in and say when I'm addressing these same issues is to say, actually, we've just done too well. That impulse that's in that's in rabbits to just spread and to succeed, or bacteria in a petri dish to go to eat everything until there's nothing but the bacteria and they die.
Yes.
In us. And we wanted to create a better world, and we've done it. We wanted to take down child mortality, and we've done it. We wanted to get rid of extreme poverty, and we're doing it. We wanted to stop disease, and we're doing it. And the price has been that we become so powerful, we're facing things which we didn't understand.
Because
so
we're
that
overdoing it. We're overdoing
overdo it, yeah, that we haven't got the, what I'm trying to say is that there's a sense in which if we could see, look at how much we've achieved. Now we need to face this new hurdle, which includes understanding our own limits.
it. Yes,
That
yes.
becomes a much easier, palatable thing to say in some ways.
You know, what came to my mind as you were talking is how successful a group of cells is that is cut off from the rest of the body and it manages to grow.
Yeah,
Very successful.
yeah,
Unfortunately, it kills the body.
yeah, 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 exactly.
But that was our problem. We are so successful that we are destroying the coherence of the rest.
And like you were saying about, with the COVID, what's impressed me, I mean, obviously it's not universal, and there's been, and I think it will probably set us back quite a bit in all of those good things, but there's been a huge amount of cooperation, hasn't there? I mean, people really have cooperated to face this challenge. So it does, I really get this idea. It's very timely that your book's out now, because it feels like this is, if people can get, oh, look, when we face a challenge and we put the vaccine, for instance, if we want a vaccine, bingo, we've got one. It's like, wow, if we can do that with this, then why not with a sustainable energy supply or dealing with plastics in the ocean or whatever the issues are?
I was 12 years old when the World War II came to an end.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of an impression, which is very precious to me, of coming back to life at the end of the World War II.
Oh my goodness.
I was living in Hungary, coming from a Jewish family. We were almost deported, but we knew what it was when life is being suppressed, and how people can pull together. And what a fantastic feeling is that when we are all together, now we are coming back to life. We can do it together, And this act of heroism about which we knew about the end of during World War II to the latter phases. Do you recall a film? You don't recall it personally, but you may have known about a film called Mrs. Miniver.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
It was made in England, yes. About how an ordinary housewife like Mrs. Miniver got into a boat and went over across the channel and saved the British personnel forces, who were forced into the channel by the German armies, and this heroism that ordinary people came up with. So, yes, this is a side effect. This is a benefit of a crisis, that it shows the way together. The whole challenge now of administering a vaccine that 7.7 billion people can have access to it,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you live anymore. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter whether you're learned or not. I mean, it's all, we are living people, part of a whole community. And it's only together can we do it, but together, yes, we can do it. So this is a marvelous lesson. It's a fantastic time to be alive. If you can just overcome the immediate danger of the infection. And so that we have more freedom to breathe and to act and to rethink, instead of blindly going back to where we were, but rethink where we are and where we could be going. And this is the rethink I'm trying to present in this book. Where could we be going? Yes, we could be creating a coherent, well-being world.
That's a beautiful phrase. A coherent, well-being world is a beautiful description of it. And I love the way that you use the word coherent and coherence, because it really captures that ability we have when, the great, it's felt to me like the two great secrets of humanity's success as a species. One has been immense cooperation within the group and immense conflict outside the group. So we're kind of very within the group. It's like, yeah, we look after each other outside, and then but the size of the group has continually got bigger.
Yes.
And so that now we're looking at, United Europe, for instance, when you were talking about just then at age 12, the whole place went up in flames. My dad was fighting in the war and D-Day and all of that. And that's what his experience, my experience is, I'm an English man who's never been to war, which is probably, how many generations can that be true of? Any before me? And it's like, wow, that's incredible that human beings who've been fighting forever stopped. So if we can do that, we can do this. we can understand our relationship to nature differently. We can, and my sense is that most people want that.
If we could just get this kind of wake up that you are articulating, if that could spread, that would be a real evolution of humankind through the evolution of our consciousness, a perfectly natural cosmic process that finally we can be aligned with, instead of moving independently and moving upstream, moving against the stream.
Yeah, and the great thing about that always seems, again, it feels like to get across, there's sometimes a tendency, especially around the environmental stuff, to feel like we've messed up and we now need to make recompense and we need to give up things, and all of that may be true, but actually I think underneath it there's this, do you want your life to have real meaning? Because it's hard to find real meaning when you're an atom just serving yourself. But if you become engaged in being a part of something beautiful that wants to get born, there's more meaning than you can possibly imagine. And that's what we're really hungry for.
Well, that our life and our existence is not a chance phenomenon, not something that's an outcome of random interactions, which was, the mainstream science until a very few years ago. And it's still being taught like that at the universities, that the series of random interactions created the world that we can now measure and observe. And it turns out that random interactions would take far longer to create anything like the complex world that we now have than the age of the universe, far longer. You can't even unscramble the faces of a Rubik cube in the age of the universe. This has been counted out, by Fred Hoyle. If you take 1 second for every move for unscrambling a randomly scrambled cube, by the time you get to a perfectly unscrambled cube, you have more seconds than there were in 13.8 billion years since the beginning of the Big Bang. So and that's just a Rubik cube.
I know we're here really to discuss your new book, but I can't help but want to ask you a metaphysical question because of what you opened up. So when you say that, I remember reading one of your books when you talk about the Akashic field, the information field, that is, and which I thoroughly resonate with and have borrowed from your ideas for sure, is that you saw it of all the information in the universe, which is very much where I would see it, but also you said of other universes, previous universes, I think.
Yes.
And I feel that very much.
Like that. Since the universe is not infinite in time and space, this is now major doctrine. The universe was born in the framework of a larger background, which we don't know what it was before. I like to call it the cosmos in the Greek term of the all, but the universe itself came to be at a space-time point. It expands and it grows and it complexifies.
So would you say
time, but it's not infinite, So
would you say then, Ervin, would you say with, well, one of the people that's articulating it at the moment who interests me is the physicist whose name is on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of it right now. It'll come. No, it's American physicist. Anyway, he's been talking about previous universes because he's looking at an evolutionary model where it's developing what Peirce called the habits of nature, and that therefore the reason that this universe can't have been long enough to develop it is because it's not the first universe. It's copying, just like Tim is copying other bodies that have existed before. The universe is copying other universes, and that's what explains that sense you have of, look, there's things forming this which are not just random.
The laws that form this universe must have been present at the moment of the Big Bang. At the birth of this universe must have been present because they started acting right away, the quanta started attracting one another and repulsing one another and creating atoms. And this process has started from the very beginning.
So do you think that could be that because the universe is being born from a previous universe and therefore it's not the beginning? It's actually a bit. It's a bit like looking.
It's the laws that reigned at the birth of this universe were already given. Now, why were they given? How did they given? The most likely answer is yes, because a previous universe already established this.
Yeah. That's why I was interested to just follow your thread there, because that's the way it looks to me, that the
Most
habits, as
likely.
Sheldrake would
It's a
say.
very intriguing question.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. I really wish I could remember this guy's name. He's a very famous physicist. Yeah, hopefully it'll come. So the book is out.
Yes.
And available in all normal places. And I'm going to send this video out and tell people about it for sure, and to anyone that's interested in my work, because I resonate so strongly with what you're trying to do.
I mean, I think this is the big hope. This is a big hope that conversations like we are having now, in one form or another, are going to spread in the world, because the questioning is very important. The perspective of seeing beyond the immediate danger, the immediate crisis, seeing the opportunity, seeing the possibility, and not in a purely esoteric metaphysical sense, but also in the sense of very down-to-earth, good physics. Yes, this universe has its own laws. We are part of it, and these laws are not mechanistic laws which just maintain a mechanism. These are laws of evolution, complexification, and increasing coherence. And we feel this when we go into ourselves. We feel it as oneness, as belonging. Young people feel it as love, unconditional love. And that is this kind of sense, this feeling of oneness and love surfacing in the world will give us the direction so that we can create a viable world and not just suffer with the old one.
So Ervin, there's something incredibly powerful about listening to you at your age, having lived such a life, say what really matters. It's something that resonates back through the ages, doesn't it? And as I've got older, I felt that more and more, but hearing your voice. And my sense, I'm a bit younger than you, but is that in my lifetime, there has been such an evolution anyway towards this goodness that we've come so far without even really noticing. And that quite rightly, we tend to look at the problems without looking at how much we've changed. And that should give us this optimism that we can actually step forward and go, and these other challenges, well, your generation and the generation before you, we had the war, we've had living with nuclear weapons, we've had transformation in the role of women, transformation around sexuality, homosexuality, huge things, race. And we've really we've really done well. Poverty, war, with so many things compared to the past, which is pretty, history is a bleak place to go, isn't it? Can we harness that optimism to not feel like, oh, well, we've messed up now and there's nothing we can do about it, but actually we can move forward.
I think this is, and all the great spiritual systems and religions, all the great science actually, is always based on the fact that there is more than pure chance at the womb of things, at the kernel, at the nucleus of things. There is an impetus towards something, toward what traditions called harmony or oneness, what we can call coherence, what we can call unity in diversity, complexity that comes not as chaos, but as organized. All that is in us, and it's steering us if we allow it. We have ignored it, neglected it. We have adopted a worldview of mechanistic, purely self-serving science. And this is being replaced now. And this replacement, its substitution toward an evolution with an evolutionary perspective, is being hastened and facilitated by the crisis created by the virus. So in that sense, we are glad that a crisis like that has come. Let's make it without human sacrifice, without health sacrifice, but we learn from it and understand again who we truly are. We are really truly part of an evolving biosphere, a whole wondrous world which is a miraculous world. I just close by saying Einstein said once there are only two ways to live your life, as if everything is a miracle or as if nothing is. And he lived like as everything is. And I believe everything is a miracle, not just stand back and say, okay, so now I can't do anything. Everything is a miracle for us to understand, to comprehend. This is not a senseless miracle. It's a highly meaningful miracle, as it were. It's a miracle that takes us into unity, into higher levels of well-being, and higher levels of existence. Every great religion told us this. And now I think these quantum sciences are beginning to tell us that the same thing. So let's use this chance to recognize this higher existence that we have and to create a world that we really can create, because it's in us to create. It's in us, this motivation, this drive, this force. As young people say in the Star Wars, let the force be with you. There is a force of evolution, and it's in us. We just have to allow it to come forward.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work you're doing and the vision you have. And I just want to say personally, on a very personal level, Ervin, that this evolutionary, what I would call a trans-scientific spirituality which can bring that insight back in and include science within it. You've been such a pioneer of that. And personally, I have no doubt that that is the future. And I just want to say thank you for doing that.
Thanks for participating. And it's our big hope. It's our big chance. It's very exciting to be alive today. But if we can get together and work together, we spread this sense, this recognition, I think that's when we create our own future. Finally, we can create it, really. Beautiful. So very good, that's what you're doing. Thanks a lot. If you recorded that, if you can have a transcript of this, I think my people would love to put this on the site.
Great, we'll do that for sure. Thank you so much, Ervin, and have a great holiday period, however you're spending it. And
you
keep
too,
safe.
and it's lovely to be in Glastonbury. I spent some lovely time in Glastonbury. Many times I've been visiting it, and It's always a great experience.
Good. Well, stay well, and thank you once again.
Thank you, Tim. I'll be in touch. Okay, bye-bye.
Lee Smolin. Why couldn't I think of that name? That's the physicist I couldn't think of. Lee Smolin. I have his books just behind me. He has this idea that everything is happening because of the power of precedence, that the laws, a bit like Peirce, the philosopher, said, are the habits of nature which accrue over time, and like laws of precedence accrue over time. So the laws that started this universe arose bit by bit in previous universes. Lee Smolin. There you go.